The next question, I'll start with Mr. O'Brien Fair. Lane reductions in and around the Willowdale area has been a very big concern for the Bayview Cummer community. Members continue to raise concerns with city's policies and the arterial roadways in Willowdale. A couple of the programs, which is the Cycle Network Plan, plans to reduce Willowdale Avenue, Bathurst Avenue, Shepherd Avenue by a lane of traffic. Rapid TO plans to remove the passing lane on Finch Avenue in Bathurst. And Steeles Avenue, there's going to be a designated bus-only lane. These policies are embedded into the Transform Toronto into the net zero strategy. If elected, which arterial roads would you support reducing and why?
So I think for starters, one of the biggest flashpoints in the community over the last several years has been Yonge Street, and having an opportunity to rebuild Yonge Street. The question has come up: are we going to put down new concrete where the old concrete is, or are we going to seize this as an opportunity to really remake Yonge Street for a phenomenal main street that will serve as the heart and soul of our community? An expansion of what happens in Melasman Square, where we have an opportunity to bring the community together on a regular basis, to have more green space, trees lining the avenue, a central median that is beautified, space for outdoor patios and cafes, really increase the walkability of the neighborhood and the walkability of the street. And it's critical for the survival of businesses out on the street because it's the walking traffic that is ultimately shown to most support small and local businesses, create that Main Street environment. It is critical to our safety on Yonge Street, and I think we're all well aware of some of the challenges that we've seen and tragedies that we've seen in the last several years out on that space with people getting hit with moving vehicles. It is critical for our environment, which I think we're going to talk later on, and getting people moving in different ways safely through our city. The question was, of course, a little bit more broad and looking at other avenues and other spaces, and I try to take an evidence-based approach to anything that I'm looking at, and I think there are very few black and white answers when it comes to making these difficult decisions. Leaders in politics and government are going to be confronted with imperfect choices and having to give a little bit over here to gain a little bit over there, and what is the right equation in any given space. It's very difficult to answer universally because there are complex challenges depending on the specific locations that we were talking about. I will say, broad sense, philosophically, I have spent the last several years researching heavily what other cities in the world are doing to get out of the traffic problems. Cities that are congested, they are finding increasingly that the way that they deal with that congestion is by supporting active transportation. That is walking, that is cycling, making those activities safe, allowing people in those communities to make those choices. And whether it's adding to our sidewalk network and filling in gaps, whether it's creating more safe crossing locations with signals, or adding bike lanes, bike share infrastructure into our community, these are critical things that have worked all over the world. I'm actually not aware of any cities that have found their traffic has really gotten worse when they are giving more space to active transportation. Almost universally, they are finding that their traffic gets better. So while I know it's counterintuitive to say, if you are sacrificing space for cars at the expense of pedestrians and cyclists, and that's actually going to make traffic better, it's very counterintuitive, but that is what has proven to be happening all over the world, including cold weather environments like New York City, Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's not just a down south sort of thing. So I think that this way of thinking to accommodate all types of transportation is critical, because otherwise the traffic is only going to continue to get worse as we intensify.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman.
So I will start with Reimagine Yonge. We live in a very unique neighborhood because we are part urban and part suburban. Anyone who has to journey more than a 10 or 15 minute walk to Yonge Street, I consider suburban. And if you're suburban, it means that you're not likely to walk to Yonge Street, and you're likely to drive. And when I drive down Yonge Street, I see most of the parking is full. So when we say we're going to take away that street parking, all the local businesses are incredibly worried. And a lot of them are small ethnic business owners who maybe don't even speak English very well, and they do not feel like their voices have been heard. I know that we have opposing voices. We have people who love biking and they really want a beautiful landscaped Yonge Street where they can ride to have their coffee and go do their groceries. So what do you do when you have all these opposing views in one community? Do we simply say, your fears and your thoughts don't matter, we are just going to go full speed ahead? Or do we try to come to a common ground together? And to me, that's why I feel the journey is just as important as the destination. I'm tired of politics that splits us up, that puts it's like us against them, me against you, we all want our way. But there has to be a way that we can all be excited about it. And to me, the best way to move forward is to transform Yonge. Reimagine Yonge. We need to pilot it, and through the piloting we can get data, we can make design adjustments. Right now we've done all this design work without piloting, whereas King Street got a pilot, Bloor Street got a pilot. Why don't we get one in our neighborhood? We can have data, we can have experiences, we can hear how the businesses are doing, how the suburban Willowdalers are doing, and I've also heard from bike riders that some of them would prefer to be on Doris and Beecroft. So to me, we should pilot both versions, have the data, and come to the best solution that fits Willowdale, one that everyone can be excited about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Lane reduction in our neighborhood is a big deal. To me, it doesn't make sense reducing the lane, and it doesn't make sense when Marcus says it's better for traffic. I don't see that. Going from 6 to 4 car lanes, how can you see better congestion? It's already congested, and you're reducing it by 2 lanes. I don't know how you see that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know how you see that. Having said that, Lily is in a position where middle ground costs, the pilot projects is known to be mostly permanent. You put a pilot project at King Street, you put a pilot project in Bloor Street. Is it still on? Is it bike lanes on it? Yeah, it is still on it. So what we have to do is making sure that the traffic flows have a vibrant businesses, because businesses, like Lily has said, BIA is against it. North Shore BIA is against it. Marcus knows that. Why do you think they're against it? Because they're afraid. They know what happened in Bloor Street. They know what happened in Koreatown in Bloor Street. Because I know business owners on Bloor Street. Their business has been suffering for the last 5 years. And that's the fact. I go to the doors, get the people to talk to me, what's the real, instead of reading a study. Because that's what my neighbor is telling me. That's my passion, going to the doors, talking to people. When an elderly, like I said, cannot afford the property tax, where is all this money going to come from? To do the I forgot the name of it, but lane reduction. It's going to come from neighborhood funds. That's supposed to be spent for road, for infrastructure like sewage, snow removal, community centers, daycare. We're going to be losing that money for that, for the lane reduction. I am all for active transportation. I am for the Cummer station. Let's get that done, so that people can travel on subways. I'm all about wider sidewalks, so that people can walk without being feared of being hit by a car or being assaulted on the street. But no lane reductions. We need to stop that project. It does not make sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. I just want to clear a couple of things up, because this notion that business owners are universally opposed to Reimagine Young is just frankly not true. It is actually business owners and property managers in the area that initiated that concept in the first place, because they are aware of other districts where such transformative measures are having such a beneficial impact on their business. I am aware of many small business owners that are concerned about parking. We can deal with the surface level parking and replacing and dealing with those issues. There's going to be a lot of consultation coming forward to make that happen. But we have struggled as a city for decades, kicking infrastructure cans down the road because council has had an inability to make decisions. Half measures here aren't going to get it done. Yonge Street needs to be reconstructed, and it needs to be reconstructed as quickly as possible. That money has to be spent. It's only a question of how we're doing it. And slapping down a coat of paint and putting up some pylons, isn't going to be an effective pilot. I would like to know from either of my opponents, have you had a chance to read the staff report on Reimagine Young, and what particular aspects of the staff recommendations you take exception to?
I don't have to really study. I drive on Yonge Street every day. It's always suggested. Does it make sense when you're going from 6 to 4? That you're going to have a better traffic? To me, there's going to be congestion. The cars going to go into the inner roads. Again, the kids are going to be playing on the roads. There are some roads in Willowdale that don't have sidewalks. If the car goes in there, people can get hurt. You don't want congestion on Yonge Street. And study, I don't need study. I drive there every day to go to work, to drive my wife to a subway station, and it's always congested. And I don't need to go from 6 to 4 and get even worse. Sorry.
Thank you. Ms. Chan.
This illustrates perfectly the division in our neighborhood. We have strong opposing views. And what is the best way to move forward? Do we simply ignore the voices of the opposition and speed on forward? In either way, canceling is a form of ignoring a large percentage of our community. Moving forward is ignoring a large percentage of our community. And that's why a pilot is the best way for us to have a shared experience. That experience can inform us in the design process. I am all for a revitalization of our street, but it needs to take into account the two different views and the data that will result. And lastly, just want to say that Brimley and Jarvis had piloted bike lanes. Brimley is in the process of being canceled, and Jarvis was removed. So pilots have resulted in cancellation in the past.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I get some water? Sure. Sorry. Should we take a break?
I think, as